What's up, guys and girls? Brock Ashby here. I am an online personal trainer. I was a face-to-face personal trainer since 2015. In 2019, I went online. I've trained on the gym floor for tens and thousands of hours, and now I coach thousands of people worldwide, which is really cool. I've had the opportunity to train a couple of celebrities as well, such as Kelly Rowland, who is probably the biggest name that I've trained. But anyway, let's jump into the reason of this video. I got a question on Instagram, which was, I can't lose weight, but I'm on stupidly low calories. Can you help me? And the answer is yes. So there's a list of questions to ask yourself to find out why you aren't losing weight on low calories or stupidly low calories, like 1,000, maybe even 800, 1,200 type of thing. So the first question is, are you a liar? And maybe you're not intentionally lying to yourself and trying to sabotage yourself, but there are a lot of people that think they're eating a certain amount of calories and they just simply aren't. A lot of people think that they're on 1,200 calories when really they're on 2,000 or even 1,600, 1,700. That discrepancy is very large, and that can be the difference between losing weight and not losing weight. And it's frustrating when you think you're on 1,200 calories and you're grinding in the gym and you're restricting yourself, you're not going out socially and eating, and you're making these big sacrifices, but you're not seeing the results. So that's the first question you need to ask yourself is, are you lying? There has been a study done where people literally, when they didn't track their calories using MyFitnessPal or something like that, a calorie counter, they underreported their calorie intake by 47%, which is almost 50%. So you could literally think you're on 1,200 calories and you're eating 2,400. And a side note on that study, they also overestimated their physical activity by about 57%. So in layman's terms, they were eating more than they thought, and they weren't moving as much as they thought as well. So are you a liar? Maybe you're not aware of it, but maybe you're just not under eating as much as you think, and you're not as active as you think, which leads me to my second question. Are you less active than you think? Are you getting a certain amount of steps? Are you hitting the gym as much as you tell your friends and family? You know, we all love to say that we train every day or we train 5 days a week, but maybe you're just going 2 or 3 times a week and you just don't want to admit it. And it doesn't really matter. It just comes down to what are you actually doing, because if you put your calories into a calorie calculator and you put your physical activity at very high, but really it's moderate, that's going to give you a really different amount of calories. So if you put in very high, it's going to give you more calories because you burn more calories throughout the day, so you need more. So if you're given more calories and then you think you're on low calories in comparison to where you think your maintenance is, you're not really going to drop because it's not an accurate representation of where you're at. So when you are looking at your physical activity, you have to be realistic. Are you sedentary? And there's no shame in being sedentary. Obviously, we can look at improving it, but it's just an accurate representation of where you're at. That's the second question. The third one is your metabolism down-regulated? And ultimately, that comes down to if you've been on low calories for a very long time. So there's something called thermogenic adaptation, which is your body's response to being on lower calories. So when you're pursuing fat loss, you have to be in a calorie deficit. So you're burning more calories than you consume. When you're in that position, if you're in a very aggressive calorie deficit to try and lose a lot of weight fast, which a lot of people do to try and get the scales moving early on, which I completely get. But when you're there for too long, your body stops burning as much calories as it was previously because your body is intelligent. And if you're burning a ton of calories, but you're not eating a lot of calories to make up for it, then your body's going to downregulate your metabolism. So you literally burn less calories throughout the day so you don't die. It's trying to stop you from starving because, you know, as humans that evolved, if we were starving, there's no, and we can't find food and we're, I don't know, running around the savannah trying to hunt a zebra or something like that. If we are just burning a ton of calories and we're not getting enough calories to sustain it, then we're literally just going to slowly die down until we, I don't know, maybe die of malnourishment or hunger or something like that. So our body literally tries to save us from moving around. And that's why when you see bodybuilders that are on their final days towards a prep or a competition, They literally are sitting down a lot. They're trying to conserve as much energy as possible. Some bodybuilders have even said that like their blinks were slower because they because they literally had like no energy because they were in such an aggressive calorie deficit. So that's the third thing. And a side note to this is something called low energy availability can occur as well, which is literally just being in an excessive extreme calorie deficit for too long. And I have the definition here. It forces the body's system to adapt to the lower energy levels which you're consuming, which compromises and reduces the energy available to the body for key functions such as bone health, reproduction, and immunity. So it's not just about building muscle and not having energy to lift weights and walk. It's literally, if you're on low calories for ages, you can have increased injury risk, you can get sick more often, and this is very common in endurance athletes when they're just really pushing it, and it's also common in people in bodybuilding competitions because these are extreme sports where you're pushing the body to the limit, and often, well, in endurance sports it's hard to get in the amount of calories because you're burning so much, but in bodybuilding and stuff like that you're literally limiting your calories to get super lean. So ultimately you get an increased risk of multiple health problems, and it's formally defined as having limited energy available to support the normal body functions, which I've already kind of covered. So ultimately it's not a great place to be. I get it. Sometimes you want to move your weight really quickly, but a thing that I like to stick to when you're trying to lose weight is get in and get out. Get in a calorie deficit and then get the hell out, because nothing really good happens there. The only purpose of a calorie deficit is to drop body fat. So once you've achieved your goal of being X body fat percentage or X amount of kg, then get out. Get to maintenance or get to above where you can start building muscle, you can start having a more productive day, productive feeling, better immune system, better potential to build muscle, and all that good stuff, which comes with getting out of a deficit. The fourth question, I thought I said 3, but I have 4. Are you a small human? Females on average burn less calories than men because on average they are smaller. It's not a sexist statement at all. If you're smaller, you burn less calories. If you're bigger, you burn more calories. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. But sometimes if you are a small person, I've trained many small females, you know, literally in the high 40s in terms of body weight. So like 48 kilos, 49, 50. And when you're at that weight, something like 1,500 calories is actually, I wouldn't say it's high, but it can be more than, for example, me. I'm a 6-foot dude who's training 5 to 7 days a week with my weights and jiu-jitsu. You know, I weigh 90 kilos. I have I'm just bigger than that person, and maybe I'm more active than them. So my maintenance is going to be somewhere around 3,500, where maybe their maintenance is maybe it's like 1,700, 1,800 if they're in like a sedentary job or something like that. So you have to be aware of your size, and if you are a small person, the amount of calories that you get for a calorie deficit and an extreme calorie deficit at that is going to be relatively small. So it's all individual to the person. And if you are looking for those calories, I do have a calorie calculator. The link is in the description if you want to find how many calories you need to maintain or drop body fat, whatever your goal is. So that's the questions that you have to ask yourself if you're not losing weight on stupidly low calories. But once you have that, you need the answer to kind of fix this issue that you may be going through. And I have some considerations for you to think of. So the first one is to get to maintenance calories. Like I touched on, you need to just get in and get out. When you achieve your goal, there's no point staying in a calorie deficit. It's not where a high quality of life is, and it's not where we get stronger, really, and it's not really where we're going to build muscle unless you are, in certain groups like beginners or you're enhanced or anything like that. So we need to get out of maintenance. That is a great way to build your metabolism, because in a calorie deficit, we're literally doing the opposite of building our metabolism. We are kind of eating into it, and it does reduce, especially as we lose body weight and become less active as we get more fatigued. The second thing, we need to potentially look at reducing our training volume to bring down our overall fatigue. And that could be reducing the number of sets that you do when you're training. So instead of doing 5 sets of bench press, maybe you change that down to 3. Instead of doing 4 sets on the squats, maybe you do 2. And this is just bringing your central nervous system fatigue down, and also potentially bringing your cortisol down. Sometimes you can just, be in this like your body's already in a very stressed state because it's in a calorie deficit. and it's not at ease. So if you just continue like training really, really hard on top of being in that super stressed state, and let's say you have a super stressed job and you have 3 kids and you're running around working part-time jobs, all that type of stuff. If your life is very stressful, your body sees training as stress as well. It can't really differentiate between the two. So if you have a really stressful job and then you go smash yourself in the gym, it's not different, because it does feel different sometimes. When you go to train, like when I train, even though it's hard on my body, I feel like it's therapeutic. I really, really enjoy it. And I feel like I can kind of chill out and zone out. But on a physiological level, it's also stressful for the body, because my muscles are seeing stress, and that's literally how they get stronger and build muscle. So they do differ. So if you are feeling like you can't lose weight on stupidly low calories, these are ways that you can kind of bring your stress down so that you can start to rebuild your metabolism. Another thing you could look at is checking your reps in reserve. So training a little bit further away from failure as opposed to training to failure every time. So maybe you're training, instead of going to complete failure until you're literally shaking and you can't lift anymore, maybe you leave 1 or 2 or even 3 reps in reserve. So that is how we measure intensity. So you just train a little bit less. You can still build muscle at 2 or 3 reps in reserve, but it does spare you that extra fatigue. And maybe you could look at reducing the amount of days that you train as well. So you could go from 6 days to 4 days. And even just with that cut in training days, you can bring down your fatigue as well. The third thing we need to look at in terms of getting out of danger is our sleep. So often, and I've been in this place before, we look at cutting things out. And often that's sleep. So we look at, okay, I need to work, I need to train, I need to do my meal prep, I need to spend time with my kids and all those types of things. And then the only thing that we can kind of look at decreasing is sleep. So we go, oh, should I get 7 hours? I might just get 5 tonight. And trust me, I do that too. It's just not the best place to be for your body, for your metabolism, and for your training, and even just for day-to-day life. So try to get somewhere between 7 to 9 hours to really help you. So obviously there's physiological benefits. You can train harder, you can recover better, all that kind of good stuff that you probably already know. But then there's things like, if you're underslept, you're probably going to look at more convenient types of food, which are probably higher in calories, which once again spills over to the first question that we asked: are you a liar? Are you eating more calories than you think? And that's easy to do when you're tired, you're forgetful, you're not really tracking your calories, and you're just overeating. So there is that effect as well on sleep. My last point comes into the one that I was saying before, when you're looking at reducing training volume to reduce your fatigue, is managing your stress. So like sleep is a big one. At nighttime, it's a big fault of ours as a society to just jump on our phones and scroll. And that may feel relaxing, but that's not really managing your stress at all. You're probably better to be off your phone, spending time, with your friends and your family, with your kids if you have some, and doing things like that. Getting outside, getting into nature. There are things you can do like meditate, and kind of, turning your devices off a couple of hours before bed and things like that. Or even breathing exercises at work if you find yourself getting stressed out like that, if you have a tendency to be like that. These can be ways to just kind of bring your overall stress and fatigue down, to help you to recover better, build that metabolism. And with all these kind of tips, then you can start to get to a place where you're kind of at homeostasis. Because if you're in a place of low energy availability and you're not losing weight on stupidly low calories, the solution is not to just be like, oh, well, I'm not losing calories on 1200, I'm going to go to 1000. We should never really be on 1000 calories. That's very, 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 very low. And I've had stories of clients coming to me being on like 800 calories before and not losing weight and getting so frustrated. To go even lower and lower and lower, or throw in fasting days and things like that, that is not the solution. We need to look at building up our metabolism first. So maybe we need to stop trying to lose fat, think of building up our metabolism, rejuvenating ourselves, and then looking to lose fat at a later date, 2 or 3 months later. But maybe it's time to get into maintenance and really start building muscle and things like that. That is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. If you have any other questions that you have as well, put them in the comments too. I do read them, and then we can look at answering those on this YouTube channel. This is the first video style of this kind of sit down format, more detailed, more information, quite educational. So if you do like it, let me know. I would appreciate it. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, there are other videos on my channel which YouTube thinks you'd like, which will be here. I think that side, yeah, it'll be here. Thanks for watching. Cheers.